Y'all, take a look at this. Now, this is low, even for Democrats, right? There's a certain type of chaos that doesn't scream, though. It whispers. It looks like people sleeping on the floor, like workers showing up to jobs they're still not even getting paid for. It looks like lines that don't move, but nobody's explaining why. And the craziest part, everybody involved, they know what's happening. They do. But they keep talking around it like if they say the wrong thing, the whole thing might fall apart. So instead, they call it delays. They call it staffing issues. They say it's complicated. Nah. What you're about to see is pretty simple. And what do I always tell you? Once you see it, you cannot unsee it, y'all.
I'm crying out to God to help me with these hard times. I'm crying out to God to help me with these hard times. Don't want no drama, so I'm throwing up the pizza.
I tell you what, that don't look busy. That look like abandoned. I'm just saying. This is what happens when the people responsible for keeping things moving aren't being taken care of. Simple. People are missing flights because they're late. They're missing flights because the system itself, it didn't show up. And notice something. Nobody's yelling yet. That's how you know it's real. Because when people get quiet in situations like this, they're not confused. They're realizing. But what happens when the people running the system, are the ones breaking it down?
The acting TSA Administrator testifying just moments ago that the agency is suffering the highest wait times in the history of that agency. More than 480 employees have quit. TSA has been shut down for nearly 50% of fiscal year 2026. Agents are sleeping in cars, missing payments, receiving eviction notices. This is real stuff. And if the shutdown continues through Friday, $1 billion will have disappeared. That's in missing paycheck. The acting TSA.
Now you see the other side of it. These are the people you trust with your safety sleeping in their cars. But that's it. They're not quitting. They're not walking out. Still showing up. And the same system asking them to show up can't even make sure that they get paid. But somehow, we're still supposed to act like this is normal. See, this is where it gets really uncomfortable. Because when people start suffering like this and nothing changes, that's not dysfunction. If you ask me, that's a decision. And once people on the outside start feeling it, that's when the tone completely shifts.
2 hours. What's it been like?
Hectic. I feel like cattle, just going through these lines for nothing. It's crazy.
And where are you headed to?
Chicago.
Chicago. People at home, they see on the news these long lines, but you've actually had to sit through it. How would you describe it to people?
Horrific. I hate it. It's disgusting. It's just terrible. I got to do it all over again next week to come back for work.
Oh, my goodness. And your message to Congress that could put an end to this quickly?
I'm just going to vote them all out. I hope people do. It's all we can do. Get somebody in there with common sense.
Thank you so much, Mark. Safe.
I know that's
2
right.
hours.
And there it is. The moment frustration turns into clarity. Because people would tolerate inconvenience, only to a certain extent. But they won't tolerate feeling like nobody's in control. And listen to what he said. Vote them out. Get some people in there with some common sense. That ain't just anger. That's somebody connecting the dots in real time. And y'all know that's what we like to do here. And he's not the only one seeing it.
How long have you guys been waiting in line for?
7 days, no. 2 hours?
2 hours?
We have an 11 a.m. flight.
What has it been like?
Terrible.
What do you want Congress to know who have the ability to shut this down and reopen and have TSA agents come back to work?
I think Chuck Schumer should be ashamed of himself.
How long have you guys been waiting in line for?
Oops, my bad, y'all. Hit the wrong button. But I know that's right. I know that's right. Now it's getting real specific because once people stop saying this sucks and start calling out names, she said Chuck Schumer. That's when the pressure starts building. And notice, this ain't politicians talking. These are regular people that y'all seeing on your screen right now. And the same people that were just trying to catch a flight. But while all this is happening, let's get on the screen that I accidentally went to too quick. I want you to watch how this conversation gets redirected.
I don't think we need them here. We need to be paid. Why would you bring another agency to be TSA when you already have TSA?
ICE agent everywhere. Every crevice and corner. ICE.
They've been standing around outside the whole time. So I would hate to call out another agency, but what I'm getting from some of the officers is that they're just in the way. On top of having the heavy burden, now we have to train them in how we do our job. I don't know what their training is like. Our training is very specialized. We're trained to be in these checkpoints, to use the equipment that we use, and anytime somebody interferes with that, it just throws one more wrench in the cog.
We're just here to make sure that the people are not being intimidated, that travelers feel safe within the airport, and that they're acting within the confines of the law.
It was very intimidating and it's scary. I'm scared.
At least they don't have masks on.
They didn't have masks on.
This right here, this is where I think it gets strategic. Follow me real quick. You've got people not getting paid, airports barely functioning, and somehow, the problem becomes the people trying to help. It's not confusion. If you ask me, that's deflection. Because if the conversation stays on the real issue, somebody has to answer to it. So instead, you shift the focus, make it about something else, anything else. Look, once you zoom out, you start realizing this didn't just happen overnight.
The massive scam here that literally nobody's talking about. Okay, so if you pay close attention on every single airplane ticket that you buy, there is something called the September 11th security fee. It's $5.60. It's on every single ticket, and you pay it up front. Now, according to the TSA website, the passenger fee, also known as the September 11th security fee, is collected by air carriers from passengers at the time air transportation is purchased, and then the air carriers are supposed to remit these fees to TSA. So in other words, you and I are directly paying for security at airports. But what's been happening over the last decade plus is that Congress has diverted the aviation security revenue away from TSA into general deficit reduction. And so the fees that we're paying, the fees that the passengers are paying specifically for airport security, has now been swept into the broader federal budget through multiple bipartisan agreements, meaning that both parties are down with this. AKA the fee that you and I pay, that all the passengers pay, is not actually being used to fund TSA like it's supposed to, but rather it's thrown in some massive slush fund. So in other words, we are paying for a service that they are not providing. So FYI, if you've missed your flight because of the government shutdown or long security lines or whatever, you can actually demand a refund from the airline for this fee that you've paid. Anyway, hope that helps, and be safe out there, guys.
Now this is the part I'm sure people are not going to like talking about, because you've been paying into a system that wasn't even fully funding itself, is what I got. So when things break down, it's not surprising. It's predictable. And when something is predictable, that means it could have been prevented. So now the question becomes, what happens when somebody actually steps in? Trump, let me go ahead and make this smaller. Breaking. President Trump is now actively considering deployment of the National Guard to airports nationwide on top of ICE. Now, this isn't new to us. We found that out, but this tweet right here is what we gonna check out. Blame the Democrats for the airport's mess. They want our country to do badly. They want our country to fail. They broke the already signed bill because They want to take care of criminals who enter our country illegally rather than American citizens. Thank you to our great ICE patriots for helping. It makes a big difference. I may call up the National Guard for more help. President DJT. Now you see the shift, right? When things get bad enough, solutions stop being theoretical and they become very much so necessary. And this is what a divide really shows, because one side is still debating and the other side is just simply trying to restore order. And the people watching all this, they're not as confused as some people think.
I don't see how extra security could be bad, you know? I mean, they're going to help out and, you know, make things move a little faster, but whether they're doing that or not, we don't know. But extra security is always good to me. I don't see how...
Boom. Simple. No politics. My boy ain't over there. He ain't over there overthinking. Just common sense. If it helps, it helps. And if you know, it's going to make a difference, let them make a difference. That's what makes this whole situation hit different, because at the end of the day, the people living through it, they don't care about narratives. All right? They don't care. That's the last thing on their mind. They care about the results. And that's the part nobody can really argue with. When systems stop working, people stop believing, not because they want to, but because they're forced to, given the hand that they're dealt. And what you just watched wasn't just airport chaos, though. I want to make that clear. It was what happens when the pressure builds and truth starts slipping through the cracks and regular people finally start saying what's been obvious the whole time. Not loudly, not dramatically, just clearly. And sometimes that's all it takes. So if you made it to the end of the video, I want you to write, restore common sense. Please. Man, it's just getting vicious out here. Y'all be safe. Go check on somebody today. You can quite literally be saving their life. Peace.